Hello Internet, I'm the Aries 1999, and today I have an open letter to share with all of my fellow fans of TTRPGs. Dear players and game masters alike, today we are talking about letting yourself be a unique character in-game. Whether you are talking in a tavern, exploring a room for treasure, or choosing an action in combat, you are the one who decides. Now, while these decisions are informed by your character build, they shouldn't be dictated by it. Don't worry about something like, as a druid, should I by default be siding with the Fey Court, or as a barbarian, should I just punch that guy who insulted me? Instead, consider the type of character you made in answering these questions. Think about their personal interests, the party's interests, and their personality. And I know I can fall into the trap too of thinking like your class, and it used to be a lot worse. Here, allow me to play for you one of the worst takes I've ever made on this channel.
When you're playing, remember that barbarians are aggressive. They are short-tempered and are quick to come to blows. They usually aren't too patient either. So while a wizard might be willing to hear out why someone stole from the party, a barbarian is more likely just to fight to try to get back what belongs to them.
See, I fell into the stereotype of thinking that barbarians are just dumb brutes, but now I know better. And one of my all-time favorite videos that I've made is 10 different ways to flavor a barbarian. And by flavor, of course, I mean, like how you're presenting and playing it in-game. This is not the cannibalism episode. Yeah, that's not until next month. Now, some other stereotypes floating around is that, bards are seductive, rogues are greedy, and that paladins present this obnoxious aura of fake righteousness. Rah! Now, if that's really how you want to play your character, then by all means go for it. I just advise that you do it mindfully. Consider what elements of your backstory led you to this. You can find interesting ways to both use and subvert the cliche. So, for instance, a bard. Bards, they're known for flirting with people. Maybe at random, maybe, you just go into a tavern and just start flirting everyone up. But maybe for you, it's not just because, you want to get dates, but it's because you're marketing for the musical performance that you're going to put on at the tavern that night. Boom. Right there, you were able to take the, basic idea of bards being flirty, but you added your own spin to it. See, because while the mechanics of how you play your character might come from the class itself, the stories surrounding those mechanics and how they fit into the game world, those should come from you. Now, you might be thinking, okay, so what's the issue of sticking to these class stereotypes? Well, I'd say that one issue is that it really holds you back from exploring more character options. You could have a lot of fun playing as a righteous rogue, for instance. Like, maybe they specialize in helping people that were locked out of their houses, or they use the gold that they find in dungeons to donate to local charities or something like that. Now, the other main issue is that it can lead to a type of agency deprivation, wherein the DM tells you that your roleplay choices should be tied to your class. A DM should never say, you can't do that because a cleric would do something else instead. Or, as a fighter, you should really leave the negotiations to the charismatic warlock. Because it's not really up to the DM to, be that much of a micromanager in how you play your character. I mean, to clarify though, if one player is trying to hog the spotlight, then it's fully reasonable for the DM to encourage them to give other players a chance, but that's a discussion for another day. I'm just saying, let the players try things. Now, on the other hand, what I think is a lot more acceptable is for a DM to ask, are you sure that's what your character would do? That's a helpful question because it gets players thinking like their characters. It's also important that it remain a question. If the player decides that based on the context this is something that makes sense for them, then yeah, it's usually fine. I mean, the exception is, of course, if the action is negatively affecting the other players, that can be shut down, but once again, I digress. On the other hand, there's no need to shut it down when a wizard wants to try to shoot a longbow, or when the fighter wants to brew a potion. They might not be very good at these things, they might not have the right modifiers or proficiencies, but hey, give it a chance, see where it leads and what creative ideas they have. What's great about TTRPGs is that they're not limited by what a team of programmers thought of or had time to implement. They are open systems where we can make open choices about the game world. And in case you're wondering, yes, this same concept also applies to character races. Come on, the stereotypes here are even more common than that with the classes. High elves are haughty and pompous. Half-orcs are violent. Dwarves are obsessed with their clan's honor. What do you think of my Zuko impression, by the way? Anyway, halflings are chill and comfort-seeking, and the list goes on. Because of that, I'm inviting, nay, challenging you to go beyond this. Make an insecure elf who wants the half-orc to like them, or maybe a nomadic dwarf who appreciates the idea of family but isn't super concerned about a clan, or maybe a very serious halfling who's on a mission to right a past wrong. See, there's no one right way to do this, and that's my main point. Get creative. Figure out what you want your character to be beyond just their race and class. I mean, telling me that you have a half-orc rogue is great, but it doesn't tell me a lot about who this character is. On the other hand, telling me that you're a half-orc rogue with a courtier background who had to run away from home because you were caught embezzling, not only does that give me a lot of information, it also raises a ton of interesting questions. Like I said, there might be a few wrong ways of doing this, but there's no one right way. Figure it out. Make up some random ideas if you want. Throw things together and just find out the kind of character you want to play. Roll with it and have some fun. Now, before we go, I want to give an example from my own campaign with the monk Thitch Urso, played by my good friend Chris. Now, Thitch is a character whose choices are certainly influenced by his class, but they aren't solely dictated by it. The other factors of his character play a much bigger role. For instance, his background as a sailor, the fact that he has a drinking problem, and the experiences he's had in this adventure. They've shaped who he is. Now, here's a non-exhaustive list of all the interesting things that Thitch has done that aren't particularly monastic. Number 1, throw out all of the food on an enemy's ship during his second session and then leaping back to his ship to safety. 2, drink a random vial containing someone else's memory at the Vault of Memory, effectively getting like a second person inside of himself. 3, become a warlock to the Raven Queen while also making deals with her rival, who is a powerful vampire. 4, assassinate someone who had already been arrested because they had some dirt on the party's sorcerer. And these are all events that sound more like something a rogue would do, but were performed by a monk. That's because Chris isn't afraid to divide the assumptions of which classes behave which way. It's either that or he's just behaving completely randomly at every session and at every turn. It's hard to tell with him, but you know what? I'm gonna say that's thoughtful. Honestly, I could go on, but I think I'm gonna wrap up the open letter here. Tell me what you think down in the comments. I'm going to start doing more of these letters to share my thoughts on different aspects and trends in the game. If you want to check out the monk Thitch in action, there's a link below to the actual Play 5e podcast we run. And if you want to check out something else on the channel, might I recommend my video on how to handle handouts and maps? Well, anyway, I'm the Aries 1999, and until next time, have a great day, and God bless.